basically their aim is to provide their aim is to provide those skills, those professional skills that will be like that every student, every person will be requiring when they'll be in building up their careers and all that. Now, to further let you guys know about it, I'd like to introduce you to our guest for today. I'm really honored to announce that she is the alumni from NED University, and at present, we can see her as a program manager at NED at Amal Academy. And we're really happy and we're really thankful that she's here today with us. So here I introduce you Miss Dania Usman, Program Manager from Amal Academy. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here today with us in this session.
Wa alaikum salam, Shiza. The pleasure is mine. Really happy to be here and I'm doing great. How about you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm really doing great. I'm really happy that I'm here conducting this session with you, something that will definitely benefit our audience today.
I sure hope so.
Okay, so ma'am, would you not mind telling us something about Amal Academy, like how it's working and how it is helpful to like us in like students who are about to be graduated?
Sure, why not? So as you just said a little bit earlier, that this is a career prep program. We provide professional skills, so on and so forth. And I think that's what the overall impression of Amal is. Students come to us telling us that they want to join us to improve their social skills, they want to improve their communication and their teamwork, which is something which we do provide, but we are so much more than just providing the social and soft skills. So when I ask my fellows what they got out of the program, they say, oh yes, our soft skills improved, but the overwhelming majority of the fellows, what they tell us is, what they found in Amal was the guidance that was missing throughout their education system. So as you know, that this is a problem that is rampant in our education system. We are great at churning out graduates. We are awesome at teaching them technical skills. So our engineers are known worldwide, right? But what we're really bad at is preparing these excellently smart, brilliant people to, how to deal with the practical life afterwards. So they do not have any exposure to what to expect in a professional setting. And that's where Amal steps in, right? This is what we provide. We provide the guidance. So there are three main modules of the fellowship. The first one being mindset building. So what do I mean by mindset building? So it's about help. So initially we spend the first month helping fellows, discover themselves. So, this is something that we're not used to, as in our society, self-reflection is not a big thing, right? So we spend some time reflecting on what our life has been like, what are our purpose, what's our goals, through individual and team activities. Then obviously an entire chunk of the fellowship is regarding career prep. So we have extensive courses over resume building, how to write a cover letter, how to sit through interviews. We conduct mock interviews with industry professionals, which is always very welcome by the fellows. And then there is a one-on-one career guidance session where they get some sort of guidance and, kind of hash out what they want to do afterwards. And then obviously there's a focus on the soft skills that are needed in the professional world out there. So we do that through team activities, role plays. There's this entire capstone project called Mega Project where fellows are, they have to work with diverse teams, cross-functional teams with people from different backgrounds. So when we are at university, we don't really get a lot of time or chance to interact with people who are cross-functional. So engineers get to work with engineers. You don't get to work with pharmacy students or marketing students, right? So here our batches are like quite diverse. People come from all sorts of fields. So you get to work with people in cross-functional capacities, which is what you should like. That's how the real world works, right? So you have to work in cross-functional capacities, and that sort of provides the training wheels to the students that to face what's it like to be in a professional setting without finding it out the hard way when they are forced to face it in a real setting. That's basically what we do.
All right, ma'am. Like, I think it is really interesting. Like, we do study in this 4-year journey, of course, there are ups and downs, but I think this is something that, like you've just elaborated, is something again also an additional thing and it's important when we enter into our careers apart from what we have already studied. So, ma'am, as you mentioned, like to me, whenever we think about a career, it is like when we have done with we are done with the studies, we'll be starting off with the job, we'll be like applying to different companies. So the first thing that we come up to is the resume preparation. Like whenever we are applying in any firm or anything. So I'd like to ask you like that, is the resume the most important thing and the most major thing through which like a person can get to that opportunity?
Okay, so Shiza, I will answer that by asking you a question. Do you
Sure,
believe in
sure.
first impressions?
Yes, I do believe in first impressions. I remember when I was around in grade fifth or sixth, I heard from my teacher, like when we were on the first day of school, that first impression is the last impression. And of course, this is applicable at the many points. But I think as the situation differs, this phrase also differs for me. Like first impression is indeed important. Like, but because there's always room for changes, there's always room for mistakes, I would say, for the people. But if I link it with here, like applying to a firm and having a resume, I do believe that first impression like actually plays a very vital role over here.
Exactly, Shiza. So in a real life setting where it might be your teacher or maybe a colleague, first impression might not actually be the last impression. So it might color how they view you, but you have several other chances to, change their minds.
Exactly,
But with a job application, the resume is your very first introduction to any prospective employer that you're going to meet, right? And if that impression is not good, you won't get another chance. That resume will be chucked in the bin and that's it. So you won't have any other chance to impress them or change their minds. So I believe, yes, resumes are extremely important when it comes to, just making that right impression so that you are given other chances to make second, third, and fourth impressions, right? So that's about summed it up. The importance of resume is vital. So, Shida, I have another question to you. What do you think is exactly the purpose of a resume? So I know you, and I know everybody know there is a document that you send to the employers when you're applying for a job. But what exactly is the purpose of this piece of document?
Well, according to me, this piece of document basically consists of what all you've been going through that education for past 14 years. And that basically sums up in this resume, along with certain skills that you are here, or maybe some experience, so that it can summarize your capability and how you can contribute to a firm, to any position. That's what I think.
So you're right. Literally, yes, resume is a piece of paper which lists your achievements and your experiences. But what is the purpose? So the purpose behind anything is, okay, what's the end goal, right? What's the end game? Why are you sending that resume to the company? The main reason why you send the resume is so that you get that interview. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Anything after that is regardless of what you wrote in the resume. The main purpose of this piece of documentation along with your cover letter is to ensure that you are getting the chance, you are creating that interest in the employers, that they are willing to meet you, right? So that is the main purpose of a resume, to get them to call you, right? So it's not easy, right? So it's kind of like a marketing document. So I know we're all overexposed to marketing in all sorts of things, like always the ads are there and we just tend to forget them, right? Similarly, a resume is kind of like a marketing document. So Shida, any guesses on how much time do you think employers or HR professionals spend on one CV or one resume?
Well, this is something that I've always thought of, but because I think like if a company is recruiting new candidates, of course there will be a lot of candidates applying for that particular job. So I think that they won't be properly scanning all of the. I think they'll be just skimming out those resumes and just grabbing something that is attracting them or something that's useful to that position. So they'll be just skimming those resumes. That's what I believe, or that's what I think.
Yes, you are very right. There is no actual reading of the resume until after it has been shortlisted. So in the very, very first step, the resume is spent, like the HR manager just spend around 7 to 15 seconds looking at your resume, right? 7 to 15 seconds, that's nothing. It's just a scan, a quick glance, right? And in that quick glance, they make a snap judgment about you. It's the decision between whether or not you're getting called for that interview, right? So it has to be perfect. It has to be very attention grabbing. So it's kind of like your marketing document. You are supposed to market your skill. You're supposed to present yourself in the best light possible. Because see, the mistake that most people make, whether they're fresh graduates or whether they're mid-professional careers, in the middle of their careers, this is such a common mistake. People feel that resume is just a list of your experiences. It's not just that. It's so much more. So with that single glance over the resume, the HR professionals, they can tell how serious you are about the job, how passionate you are, how much research you have done, and whether or not you are a correct fit for the job, right? So there is so much information to be extracted. So you need to be very, very conscious of what information you're putting out there on that piece of document. So it's not an easy thing. Most people don't even spend one day writing their resumes. While as resume writing is a long iterative process, you should at least take 1 to 2 months developing that resume, reiterating it, going over it again and again. So yeah, it's not an easy thing. And this is why I'm here. I want you to understand that do not take resume lightly. You need to spend and invest the time in it to make it perfect so that you get that job.
Okay. So since you've mentioned that, like after this, you understand that the first most important thing to get through is, of course, a good resume. So basically, like definitely our audience is now in awe of how a resume should be written, that it gets accepted and promoted to the next step. So like we can call it as what should be in a resume and what shouldn't be, so that can make it a good one. So how do you like summarize that to us?
Okay, so summarize would be the correct term, because this is like we spend around a month on resume during our fellowship. So it's not a one and done thing. So we keep on reiterating and sending it back again, back and forth, sending the critical feedback. So within the 20-30 minutes I have here, definitely Shiza, it's going to be a summary. So as you pointed out, it's the first filter that employers apply. And it's really important that we make it past that filter. We just don't want to get filtered out, right? So for that, there are some key tips that I would love to share with you guys. Should I share my screen now, Shiza? Is that okay?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Okay, great. So I have a handy presentation to go along with it. All right. Okay. So yes, it's the resume do's and don'ts, but let's just go through it. So the first very important thing to understand while you're building the resume is to understand the difference between resume and CV. So Shiza, are you aware of what the difference is? Because in Pakistan, we tend to use the terms interchangeably. We call like when we say CV or resume, it means one and the same thing. But do you understand?
That's what I also think, that like what I've been told, that it is the initial step of applying to any job, any position, or I think not even here, but anywhere, to summarize what you can do probably and what you have done. So that's what I know, that it is somehow similar or maybe a little bit different. That's what I'm looking forward to you for.
Okay, sure. Yes. So in our country, we use the term interchangeably, but it's important to understand the difference because they're not the same thing. So a CV is curriculum vitae. Curriculum vitae means story of your life. So it contains every professional experience that you had. Anything and everything will go on a CV. So it's longer. They tend to be 2 to 3 pages long. So anything, the closest thing to CV in the modern context would be like your LinkedIn. So you add everything, right? Any certification that you did, any soft skill training that you did, anything and everything goes on your CV. So it's kind of like your database of all of your professional experience. Now, what is resume? Resume is a very specific purpose document. So resume is 1 page and it only consists of your most relevant experiences. So resume is a 1 page list of experiences which you feel are very, very job specific. So, you shouldn't have a single resume that you're sending to every single job that's out there. For every job that you're applying, you need to have a custom tailored resume. So you pick and choose experiences from your CV, because most of us have experiences. We have done so many things. We have done so many extracurricular activities. We have so much to tell the world. It does not fit on a single page. So that goes in your CV. Your resume, however, is a one-page document which you feel is the most relevant skills and experiences that you've had that fits the job description that you're applying for. So resume is job specific. CV is a longer document. You can provide a CV as a supplementary document to various positions, but most employers do not ask for a CV. Most just ask for a resume, and resume must be a one-page long document. If you are a mid-career professional, it can be 1.5 to 2-page long. But for most fresh graduates, which I'm assuming is our audience right now, 1 page is more than enough. I know we are all very, very possessive of all of our experiences. We want to add all of the awards that we have won, but please, find that this is a marketing document, right? So add the most attention grabbing, the most marketable skill that you have on the resume. So first thing first, you must understand that you need to go over your resume every time you're applying to a new job. It should not be the same recycled resume that you applied for the 5 other jobs that you send the same resume to. So that's the main difference. Okay, now what goes in a resume? So generally speaking, the do's and don'ts generally of the content vary from field to field. So you need to do your own research of what field. So if you're a mechanical engineer, there must be some format or some things that are expected within your field that might not be the same for maybe someone who is graduating as a business major. So you need to do your own research on what your field expects, but there are certain things that are common across the board. So for fresh graduates or for people who are just starting out the career, it's pertinent that there is your personal information there, your education, your professional experience, your academic experience, extracurriculars and volunteers. Now, this is very important for fresh grads because, as you know, most of you, or I won't count myself as a fresh grad anymore, sorry about that. But most of the fresh grads, or when I was a fresh grad, I did not have much professional experience to boast. All I had was extracurriculars and my academic experience. So these are highly important for people who are just starting out on their careers. So we had this HR professional come over as a guest speaker in our fellowship session. And she particularly, because she hires fresh graduates, she said that I know people do not have a lot of experience. So what I look for in a fresh graduate's resume is certifications and extra courses that they've done that are related to their field. So that is also very important. And the additional section, it's not necessary that you use the additional section, but if you are using it, you can use it to list your any languages that you're learning. So I know NED is teaching Chinese. You can add that. Yeah. You can add the softwares that you're using. People write interests, but I feel okay, only add that if you have a very diverse and a nice kind of an extra hobby, something like art or something that adds value to your resume. Don't write stuff like I like to watch movies and stuff like that. Okay. Yeah, I know people do that. They write I like to watch TV shows, which is great. It's a great hobby. I love watching TV shows as well. Just don't put it in the resume, right? Remember, it has to be the most pertinent, most relevant details, things that throw a good light on you. So if you are into maybe hiking or event management, things like that, you could put there. They add value to your resume and show that you have a diverse sort of interest and a diverse personality. Okay, so let's quickly move on. Oh, by the way, I just want to say that it depends. It doesn't. The order is not set in stone. So it depends on what you feel is your most marketable skill. So for most fresh graduates, it's their education. That's the most marketable thing that they have. So, I went to NED. So that's what potential hirers for MT programs are going to look at. What university you went to. But if you feel that your professional experience is something that's more marketable. So for someone at my stage of career, I tend to put my education right at the bottom because now I've had 6 years of work experience and I feel that's much more pertinent to the jobs that I apply for. So it could be for you as well as people who have some sort of a great experience in internships or some sort of working experience already. They've already been working throughout their university life. They can put the professional experience at the top. The order is not set in stone. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. So generally speaking, I'm not going to be marketing or telling you that there is only one right template to follow for a resume, except for the fact that it should be 1 page long. Other than that, I'm not going to be saying that, okay, this is the only template to follow. But my personal, from my personal experience as both someone who's applied for jobs and someone who was hired, I prefer much like simple monochromatic resumes, no nonsense, no flashy stuff around it, so that I can focus on the skills and the things that you've written. But you do you, choose whatever style reflects you best. However, I would suggest that if you choose to add color to your resume, don't go overboard. Don't use like, it should be either monochromatic, or if you're using a color, it should be black and some other color. Don't go red, purple, yellow, right? People tend to do that. Don't, it just distracts from the purpose, which is marketing your skills. Okay, so when it goes about what to add in your bio, your name should be in all caps. It should not be hiding somewhere in the corner, because that's like your main thing. Your name should be very much in all caps. Your phone number, your email address. This, I'm sure you've heard it several times, that make sure that you have a separate professional email. None of the fancy stuff. It should just be your name, some numbers, and the gmail.com or hotmail.com. Well, who am I kidding? Nobody uses Hotmail these days. It's all Gmail. Great. LinkedIn profile. Shiza, I hope you also use Gmail. You know that now I've learned.
Definitely.
If somebody has a Hotmail as an email address, it's one of the old people's. None of the new people use Hotmail. It's just Gmail. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I am one of the old people as well, but I still use the Gmail. Okay. All right. So LinkedIn profile, you must make sure that you're adding your LinkedIn profile link over here, because it's absolutely necessary that your LinkedIn is up to date. I'm not going to go because, as I said, LinkedIn is like your CV, which has all of your experiences. Resume is the one that has the most specific ones. So when employers have shortlisted you, hopefully, they would like to explore about you in detail. So they definitely go and check your LinkedIn profile. So make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to date. And that's another topic for another day. Today, I'll just be focusing on the resume. Another thing you must make sure when you're adding your LinkedIn profile is that your LinkedIn profile should be customized. So you can customize your URL. So there are no extra meaningless strings and numbers, because that just looks bad. So customize it for it to be just your name. You can add your age. Another option is you can add your date of birth, because with age, you need to keep updating it to match your current age. I suggest date of birth, because then you don't have to worry whether you send the correct age or not. There have been some mixed opinions about age. Some people say do not add your age, but I feel in our country, age is a required thing to add in the resume. But definitely do your research whether or not it's something that is needed for the job that you're applying for. Another thing that is a question mark is whether or not to add your picture. Now, I personally am in the no picture camp. But if you are adding your picture in the resume, make sure it is highly professional. So highly professional, I don't mean that your friend had a DSLR and he took a great picture at a wedding, or even a passport picture. Those are not professional headshots for work. So if you are adding a picture, it should be a professionally taking headshot specifically for the purpose of work. And it should either be no background or a white background. So see, there are so many technicalities involved that I feel it's hard to match all of those criteria. So I personally tell my students that just leave it off. So and there's another reason why I feel that the picture should not be on the resume, because there has been research that sometimes adding your picture creates a bias that you might not want. So up to you whether you want to add a picture or not. If you are, make sure it's highly professional. Okay, so I'm not going to talk into detail about education, because I'm sure it's fairly understandable. Right, your university. It should be in a reverse chronological order, most recent first, And so for bachelor students, it's okay if they write their bachelor's, intermediate, and metric. The higher your education go, you should not be start talking about your metrics. So if you're at a master's level, then master's, your undergrad, and then your college. So on and so forth. Don't go way back, all the way back to your nursery, primary, kindergarten. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to add over here is the GPA. Only add your GPA if it is exceptional. And by exceptional, I mean 3.7 or higher. If it's below that, don't add it because it's not, adding value to your resume. Okay, now the most important part where I want to spend most of the time that I have, it's the descriptors of your resume. All right, so what are descriptors? Descriptors are basically the description that you give about the experiences that you've had. So whether it's professional, whether it's your academic experience, you worked somewhere or you did something, and then you need to describe what you did there. Because just if you're writing that you worked at so what goes in the descriptors? So don't worry, I got your back. Okay, I apologize in advance if my voice is glitching because I think my internet is unstable, but we'll power through. Okay, so here are the 3 steps that Amal prescribes. And let me tell you, these are through some solid research by talking to HR professionals and our personal experiences, because most of us are quite experienced in the hiring side. So these are the 3 Amal steps for resume writing. First one is simpler is better. Second one being focus on action. Third one being highlight achievement. And I'm going to look at them one by one. So let's quickly talk about simpler is better. Simplicity means over here, as I said, in terms of the template you use, as well as what you're writing. So here are 2 examples of descriptions. I'm not going to read them out. I'm sure you can see them yourself. The first one goes on and on about what the person was doing in there, and it's so long that I don't want to read it. As I said, 7 seconds, nobody's going to read that. The bottom one says the same thing, the exact same things, but in much simpler way. It says analyze customer trends to foresee future demand. So I'm sure you understand which is better. Remember, you have limited real estate. It's a single page document. There are margins involved, so and headings. So you have very limited space. You need to say the right things in a concise, simple manner. I notice sometimes students go overboard and they use like really difficult words and really long words. Don't do that. HR managers are human. They don't want difficult words. Yes, use technical words, but keep it very simple. All right. So your descriptor should be small and concise, and this takes time because it's easy to say something in many words. To say the same thing in fewer words is harder. Dariya ko kooze mein band karna hota hai, so it's very hard. So you have to spend time over this. Okay. Now, what do I mean by focus on action? So I'm sure, Shiza, you know that the employers aapko jo hire kar hote hain, wo aapko kaam ke liye hire kar hote hain. They're not hiring you because of your experience. They're hiring you because what are you bringing to the table? So they want to know what actions you've already done. So you are telling me that you were an intern at Mizan Bank. That's great. What did you do over there? So yeah, this fellow over here has listed what he or she was doing at Mizan. So again, some of the descriptors, they're not extremely long, they're good, but they're boring. They're starting with, okay, internship in area office, customer dealing from. I just do not find this very attention grabbing. Remember, we need to like force them to read these sentences. There needs to be a hook for them to be attentive to what we're writing, because acha customer, I work. Remember, they're going to read the first sentence, first word, and the first word is boring. They're not going to read the rest because they need to scan this. So how do we do that? So the tip is you need to start your sentence with an action verb. So originally, the person wrote, I work with 6 team members. Boring. How about you start with an action verb like coordinated? Coordinated with a team of 6 to facilitate the account opening. It's the same thing, but now it's much more attention grabbing. Now remember when I said about job descriptions and tailoring your resume to the skills that the job description is highlighting. So I'm sure if you've looked at job descriptions, they highlight the exact skills they're looking for. So they might be looking for coordination, they might be looking for teamwork, they might be looking for analysis, they might be looking for designing. So if you are starting your sentence with the exact thing that they're looking for, it's going to automatically hook their attention. So here's a small screenshot of a resume that's from a Harvard student, and the HR manager there, they highly appreciated the fact that their descriptors are all starting with really strong action verbs. So the underlined bits: led across functional geographical disperse, improved, reduced, conducted. All of these things are giving the impression that this person actually created some impact. They did something. They improved something, they reduced something that needed to be reduced, they conducted something. So they're automatically attention grabbing. So always start your descriptors with action verbs. I can't share it right now, but I can obviously share the link with you later on so that you can share with our audience here. That or you can just Google action verbs. You get an entire list of all of the relevant action verbs, and then you can pick and choose which suits your job the most. So analysis or research, if you're applying for some research job, designed, spearheaded, all of these excellent action verbs are there. So they're designed to capture the interest of the person who's reading your resume. Okay. I hope that's making sense to that. Tell me if I'm
yes, definitely.
Okay, so the third step, which is extremely important once more again, is that your resume should be achievement focused. It should not be focused on your experiences or your responsibilities. I was responsible for this or things like that. It should be achievement focused. So you were an intern at Mizan. Great. So what? What did you achieve? What was the impact that you created? Your resume should be all about the impact that you created in whatever position it was, whether it was an internship position, whether it was a position as a social media manager for your society that you worked at, or whether it was your FYP. What was the impact that you created? What was the result of the action that you just did? So remember, we started with an action verb. Now, aapne conduct kiya kuch, you research something or you developed something. Now, what was the result of the action that you did? So now that you've managed to grab the attention of the reader, now you need to tell them what was the impact that you created. So the sentence in red over here, it said coordinated with 16 members in the sales department. Okay, so far so good. The underlined portion, to generate rupees 40,000. That's the impact that you're bringing. So it's very important that whatever experience it is that you're highlighting in your resume, that you are showing the impact. And you can show the impact. One way you can show the impact is through quantification. I'll repeat the word if I'm not clear. Through quantifying the things that you did. Use numbers to highlight what you achieved. So 40,000 is a tangible thing. It gives me context. 40,000 is not a small amount. It's a good amount. You did that. That's great. It gives me a sense. Okay, this person actually did something. And now instead of this being abstract, it's all very real to me. So we need to create that sense of reality, because as we know, for the hirer, you are just a piece of paper at the moment. So once they see the numbers add that context. Okay, this has to be real. That's great. So that is going to, make them more likely to call you for that interview. So again, in the highlighted picture, you see the person is instrumental to region earning 120% of the quota. So again, they're showing that they not only met the quota, they met above and beyond. So adding numbers add a lot of context that is much needed. And it's something that is missing from most resumes. Students or fellows, they just tend to say, okay, visited the industry and observed this. What did you get out of it, right? Show the impact. Now, it's not always possible to show the impact with numbers, but we'll come to that in a bit. Let's quickly go through what are some ways in which you can show the impact or highlight achievement in your resume. So if you're not sure about the exact number, you can use a range. So the example here is created a website which had 100 to 200 visits every day. So again, 100 to 200 gives me context. Okay, this is not a website that has 0 hits a day, right? So it gives me context. Yeah. Okay, this is some important website that's at least getting 100 to 200 visits. Then you can also add the frequency of the task that you're doing. So over here, it's an example of the number of health checks that the person is doing per day. So 5 or 6 health checks. So it could be if you maybe did some sort of a customer support service, because a lot of students tend to do a customer support job on the side as a side hustle. So you can also highlight that helped 10 to 20 clients figure out, provided customer support to 10 to 20 clients a day. So again, adding numbers help add context and show the impact. You can also show impact through rankings. So over here, it's like most valuable team player. So that's like you're the best at something. Or I noticed that a lot of the people, students specifically, they mention their achievement of some project they did, or some competition they won, or they might not have won, but they were in the top 5 or top 10, but they just say that they participated, and they failed to mention that they were in the top 5 out of 60 other projects or 60 other competitors. So highlight that, focus the impact, tell us ki kya hasil hua, what was the end result of the thing that you just did. Okay, again, with the numbers, you can show scale to show the impact. So for instance, over here, it's like administered sales training to 80 employees. So telling that the large number of employees that you train, that also gives context. So for a student perspective, if you are the teacher's assistant or the CR, you could say that you handled a class of 70 for something that you did, right? So giving the number to show the scale of the process or the project that you're handling, that is also like very helpful. And percentages, as always, very helpful. The example is here. Maybe you could talk about your FYP. So I've noticed with the FYPs that students are not listing the impact or the findings of the project. So definitely showcase you were able to achieve 80% of your goals, or however much percentage. So numbers are highly needed. Quantify your experience, highlight the achievement that you did through some whatever experience it was. Okay, here are some good and bad examples of how you can highlight your achievement. So conducted weekly sessions. This gives me absolutely no information whatsoever. And this is what most people end up sending out in their resumes, right? So what, you conducted weekly sessions? What? I don't care. Explain what was the impact that you brought. So conducted weekly sessions in an effective manner. You are telling me that it was effective. There is no supporting evidence. Provide me proof. So the bottom 3 versions are much more effective in explaining to make it what was the purpose, or what was the what you got out of it and what impact you created. So you can see in the first one, they are quantifying it that due to your conduction of weekly sessions, the scores increased by 25%, which is great. But as I said, it's not always possible that you can quantify or add numbers to your experience. So you can be highly specific in terms of the positive result that you brought about without showing the numbers. So in this case, it's like conducted weekly sessions in a professional and effective manner, which resulted in receiving the best teacher award. So once again, you are like highlighting your rank and the positive outcome that you brought, or the recognition that you received for it. And the last one is also great because it's saying improved confidence resulting in significantly greater participation by the end of the year. So once again, you're not quantifying, but you're highlighting a very specific positive impact that you brought about. Okay. So Shiza, tell me if we have the time and whether we can go on to the formatting bit, or we can stop here if you tell me.
Okay. Like you can right now we can carry on with like this we do have time, so we can just have it in
10 more minutes, because the other bits are also very important. Okay, so far we were focusing on the content of the resume, which is obviously much more important than anything else. but we should not disregard the presentation because presentation matters, right? So, and this might all seem like things that everybody understands and it's okay, nothing new, but surprise, surprise, the resumes we receive, the basics are not met, right? So before I even read your resume, I look at, like, the first thing that my brain is going to register is the formatting, right? So if the formatting is completely off-putting, if it's not easy for me to read your resume, if it's not, you know, aesthetically pleasing, I'm going to chuck it in the bin, right?
Okay.
So formatting is highly important, and it might seem like an obvious thing, but it's really not. Fresh grads, as well as I said, experienced people, they do not put in the thought that is required in the formatting. So general rules, font styles should be simple font styles, none of the fancy stuff. Just go with Arial, Calibri, or Times New Roman, standard, safe. No need to be funky on your resume. You can show your character and personality in your cover letter or in your interview. Resumes should be, you know, boring. Okay, font size 11 point. This is very important. You can go to 12 if you're using Calibri because Calibri tends to be small, but with Arial and Times New Roman, 11 standard. Highly important, just keep the size exactly the same. 11 point throughout your resume. Do not change the size even for headings, right? You can go all caps and, you know, lower caps. Don't shift between font sizes because it becomes hard to be consistent, and different font sizes, inconsistency in font sizes is an automatic killer. So don't do that. Stick to a single font size throughout. Margins, this is something very important as well, because as I said, people understand that the resume needs to be one page, so the margins become very narrow because they want to fit in as much detail as they can in that one page, so they maybe, you know, do not leave enough margins. Make sure that you're leaving at least 0.5 inches at the top and the bottom, and anywhere between 0.5 and 1 inch on the sides. Highly important that the margins should be equal on the left and the right sides. Okay, the top bottoms can differ, but the side margins should be equal. And consistency, as I said, highly important. Use the same formatting throughout. So if you choose to go all caps for your headings, make sure that all of your sections headings are all caps. If you're choosing to bold your headings, then all of the headings should be bold. Not like it should not be random, because the brain needs to have that signal. Okay, if this is bold, then this is the heading. So you should not be sending conflicting messages to the person who is reading, because again, 7 to 15 seconds, they're making all of that. The brain is taking all of that information in. So don't send in conflicting information. Okay. Oh, one more very important thing. If you're using italics, if you're using underlines, use them consistently. If you choose K, you are going to underline your position and position only. So whether you were an intern, whether you were a student, whether you were hired as what could be a position, a teacher or whatever, then underline consistently. Don't just randomly underline stuff or just randomly italicize something because people do that. Don't do that. It just sends conflicting messages. Alignments.
Okay, one thing that I would like to interrupt with, that like just you mentioned about the formatting. So like, can we call this as just standard formatting for any resume, any type of resume, like always to follow with this pattern, it would be like just perfect?
No, of course not. You do you. Whatever you choose to highlight, just or whatever formatting you choose, just do it consistently. So for instance, अगर आपने सोचा कि मैं अपनी सारी section headings को red color में लिखूं, right? Then do it. But then be consistent कि सारे section heading red. ये नहीं कि एक आपने education को red किया है, आपने professional experience को red किया है, but suddenly your जो awards and honors वाला section है आपने उसको blue कर दिया, right? So जो भी font size, जो भी style you're going for, be consistent throughout. As I said, it's about not sending conflicting messages. क्योंकि since you're skimming, तो अगर मैं वो left पढ़ भी नहीं रही होंगी ना, तो मेरे दिमाग को ये signal जा रहा होगा कि अच्छा this was the heading, I can skip that, right? So if suddenly वो अचानक से format change होगी, आपने for instance अपने date सारी italics में लिखी है, और suddenly एक data जो italics में नहीं है, you forgot, you were not careful, consistency नहीं हुई, तो इससे क्या नजर आएगा कि you did not pay attention to the detail, and then that sends a message to the employer कि अच्छा, this person obviously did not care enough about this job to be consistent throughout. So like I said, resume से खाली आपकी skills नहीं नजर आ रहे थे, it shows how much passion you have, how much research you've done, and how serious you are about this job. So attention to detail nazar aani chahiye. So whatever format you choose, stick to it throughout consistently. It should show that you're not flaky. आप randomly नहीं चीजें करते, आपने सोच समझ के कोई एक theme choose किया है, कोई एक सोच के सोचा है कि okay, this is the thing that needs to be highlighted, so I will highlight it consistently across the board, right? That's the point of formatting. Aside from it be, so, you need to make it easy for the people to read your resume, because as you know, 7 to 15 seconds when they need to get in a lot of information. So you should make sure that it's easy to read and it's consistent. That's what I meant. There is no fixed format. Do whatever you like, whatever represents you best on a resume. So if you feel like colors suit you, go ahead, use colors, but be consistent about it. Okay. Okay, alignments. I know once again seems like a very obvious thing, but oh God, alignments. This is my pet peeve. All over the places. Bullets not aligned. It's like kind of just, you know, even if it's the perfect resume and everything is all over the place, the alignments are off, it just irritates me personally. And I'm sure it might be the thing that might be common for other people who are hiring. So, you know, the goal is not to irritate the person whom you want to hire you. So make sure that the alignments are very, very precise. So bullets should all be aligned. Oh, bullets. Please make sure that whatever bullet that you're using is consistent throughout. So ऐसा ना कि एक जगह आपने वो dot वाला bullet use किया है, एक जगह आप ticks use कर रहे हैं, एक जगह आप stars use कर रहे हैं. This is what I mean by consistency. Choose whatever bullet you like, but then use it consistently throughout the resume. ऐसा ना हो कि कभी एक कुछ किया, then you said, okay, no, I want to throw this into the mix as well. Just be consistent. Headings should be aligned. Things should all be aligned. Everything should just be aligned. It's written over there. So the last point is highly important. Your resume should give the impression that you are a detail-oriented person. और ये सारी छोटी-छोटी details and the nitty-gritties, these all count towards showing your personality, that okay, you are someone who pays this close attention to a full stop, pays this so much attention to whether or not it's aligned, things are aligned or not. This definitely reflects well on you being as a person, whether or not you're going to be a good hire. And aside from the fact that the readability improves drastically if your alignments are in place. So the trick to make sure that your alignments are perfect are to draw a line. So nowadays, आपके जो सारे word processing documents होते हैं, उसमें खुद ही एक automatically lines आ रही होती हैं. So there is absolutely no excuse कि आपकी चीजें सही से align ना हो. So over here, you can see that the bullets are aligned. All of the headings are properly aligned to the left. The section headings are also aligned to the left. However, there is something that is really annoying, which is over here. I'm not sure if you can see the arrows, but see over here, the sentences, the dates, some of them are not aligned. So I don't know about you, Shilda, what impression is this giving you? Because personally, all I feel is irritation.
Well, I think exactly this is like something very much like everything, so much thing is happening over here, and I cannot get to the point that where I should stop to read and where like everything is so much things are happening in this over here. It seems to be very detailed, probably.
So yeah, exactly. I'm not even bothering to read this because the alignments are distracting me so much, right? So yeah, the alignments are off, and with the on the right hand margin as well. Although the cities and countries seem to be aligned by the eye alone, however, whatever you're putting on the right margin, make sure it's to the extreme right. Don't leave it hanging in the middle, right? So whatever your left margin is going to be, that's going to be extreme left. Then your right margins or whatever you are aligning to right should also be on the extreme right. So even though this might be aligned with each other, it's not aligned to extreme right. Make sure it is extreme right. So use that right justification option in the word processing documents. last tips, and then I will be quiet about this, is this: make sure that you're proofreading your resume, right? So don't just proofread it yourself. Make sure some other person with fresh eyes is also going through your resume, because no matter how many times you go through it, there's always some typo, there's always some misalignment, which your eyes, because now they're so used to seeing it, they might not see it. So proofread it yourself, and then make sure that someone, your friend, your family, your sisters, brothers, whoever, teacher, is going through your resume as well, to make sure that those tiny mistakes are not, because aapko nahi nazar aati, but rest assured the person that matters most is definitely going, the mistake is going to jump out to them. So make sure that you're proofreading. A second thing that, and I recently discovered this, and I think this is very helpful. As I said, that you need to tailor your resume to whatever job it is that you're applying. So this is extremely helpful. Job description to padni hai, zahir si baat hai, but you know what you can do? You can copy paste the job description in a word cloud websites. So you find these word cloud website that they can generate the word cloud for you. So what they do is उसमें वो नजर आ जाएगा कि कौन-कौन सी skills हैं जो उन्होंने बार-बार highlight की हैं. So that एक आपके पास जब एक pictorial representation आ जाती है कि okay, so this particular company is looking for someone who is good at communication, who is great at working with teams. So वो words बड़े-बड़े नजर आ जाएंगे, the words that they've used most consistently in the job description. तो क्योंकि हम खुद पढ़ते हैं तो हमें शायद इतना नजर ना आए, मगर जब एक एल्गोरिथम आपको बताती है कि this is the word that they are using the most, तो फिर वो एक आपको एक belief आ जाता है, तो then you can customize your resume according to that word cloud. Acha, if this company highly values someone who is good at working with teams, then I need to look at all of my experiences जहाँ पे मैंने teamwork किया है and उसमें मैंने बहुत कुछ किया. So then you add those relevant experiences in your resume. Or if there is a job that experiences highlight or values someone who has done research, तो फिर आपको वो नजर आ जाएगा कि research की related skills चाहिए, so you can highlight your research experience. So make sure that you are tailoring your resume according to the job description that you're applying for. Okay, I can go on and on, because as I said, we spend around 1 month on resumes alone at the fellowship, and I have so much other stuff, things to say and add, more tips, because resumes, as I said, is it's a cyclical process. It doesn't end once you've sent the resume. You learn from the mistakes and your experience, and you make it like you start afresh. You make another resume. So it's always changing. It's always updating. So I have a lot to add, but in the interest of time, I'm going to stop over here, and Siddha, back to you. I will stop sharing my screen.
Okay, well, I think this was actually a complete package of how we can actually write a good resume probably and can get accepted as well, because I over here got to know about a lot of new things that I was not known about, like while writing a resume. And the most important one that you mentioned was when you mentioned that we should at least spend a lot of time while writing resume and not like days or like just in a day. So I think that basically defines how important a resume can be while we are applying to a firm. So well, with that, I would like to ask the audience as well that if you have any questions related, you can also drop them. So then Dania can like answer you according to that. And other than that, I would like to address that, as you mentioned about like having alignments, having proper formatting styles in it. So like simplicity was the main key thing that we discussed. So does that mean that what's important in a resume is that how you have organized everything, like starting from your education, achievements, because that's what basically makes up a good resume, right?
100%, Shiza. So there's a rule of thumb that I tell my fellows, okay, your resume is judged on 2 things, its content and its formatting. 60% of the weightage is given to the content, 40% to the formatting, right? And sometimes for fresh graduates, it's like, because the content might not be that great since they don't have a lot of experience, so sometimes the formatting matters even more, right? So you need to spend a lot of time on the content as well as on the formatting. And as you mentioned, it's the story that you're telling through your resume that matters most. So once again, we have to remember that this is a marketing document. You're marketing your most sellable skills, the things that you feel are going to sell in the market, right? I know it might sound very mercenary, मगर basically that's what it is, right? आप job के लिए apply कर रहे हैं, you're telling them कि okay, here is what I've got, do you want to buy that, right? So it should be sent in such a way, like it should be like the most pretty looking, most relevant thing that the customers or not really, the employees are not really your customers, but if you think of it in that way, they are your customers, they're shopping for the best fit for their organization. So now it's up to you what story you're telling, right? And people buy stories, so we like ads जो हमें story सुनाते हैं कोई, rather than just telling us what they're selling. So similarly हमें अपनी resume में थोड़ी बहुत there is an element of storytelling. So yeah, definitely the content matters.
Okay, all right. So in addition to that, we are writing a resume. So like grammatical errors or vocabulary, does that create any impact?
Oh, 100%. I'm so glad you brought up, Shiza, the grammatical errors. As I said, proofread. So I was not just talking about spelling galat ho gayi ya alignments off gayi. Definitely run your resume through something like Grammarly or spell check, because so we know when I spoke about use action verbs, so we obviously have highlighted how important it is, the words that you're choosing to, this like in your descriptor. So definitely business writing rules, grammar, very important. So if you feel that you're not confident about grammar, make sure you're asking somebody for help who can make sure that you're not making any basic grammar mistakes. So it's not important कि आपने बहुत flowery language use की हो. So that, as I said, simple is better. So use simple words, but make sure that you're not making absolutely any grammar mistakes. So if you feel that you are not that confident, definitely use a spell check or Grammarly, and make sure that someone you feel is good at English, then they must go through your resume to make sure कि आपने कोई basic grammar mistake नहीं की हो, क्योंकि it reflects badly. So especially for really highly competitive firms, maybe Unilever, Engro, there it 100% matters that there are absolutely no grammar mistakes in your resume.
Okay, all right. In addition to that, it's just winding up with the session that you mentioned about having a experience that creates an impact, right? So we are just being graduated and we are not having much of the experience in that field. So how can we add up our things that can create an impact for ourselves?
Okay, so I'm so glad that you asked. So as I keep on saying, I know fresh graduates, you don't have a lot of experience, but what you've had, it's not that you spend your 4 years at university doing nothing, right? So I'm sure you do internships. Then you are probably doing some sort of a side hustle. You're maybe content writing, maybe you are teaching tuitions, maybe you are part of societies that you are doing something for them, right? So if you're doing absolutely nothing, then obviously there is not much that you can do. There's always the FYP. You absolutely must highlight your FYP experience under the academic experience, because it's a year-long project where you're being supervised. And it's a documented proof that you actually did something, where you're working in teams, where you're doing your research. So if you have nothing, you will have your final year project. So you highlight your final year project. A final year project को कहेंगे अच्छा ये तो सभी करते हैं, but how are you going to make it sound you and more personalized? Definitely highlight the skills that you used over there. What was the impact your FYP created? So you did research, great. Research what? And what was the result of that research? You built a prototype, great. Design the prototype on this. Use this particular software that is needed in this. So for instance, you can highlight कि अगर किसी so for instance, if you are going for an electronics job and you know that this is a particular software that is used in the professional capacity, then you can say, highlight the fact that you use this particular software for the project and this is what you achieved. Definitely talk about कि आपने जो prototype build किया उसका क्या फायदा हुआ. So one experience that you can highlight is the FIP. Then you can highlight your experience working for societies. So if you were in the society, once again, you get to work so if you've ever worked in any sort of an organization that has a hierarchy, you can always highlight the fact that you either reported to someone or you led someone. So you led a team. Leadership qualities are always very much in demand. So you can highlight any leadership position that you had. So if you were a CR, you can highlight that you were the class representative, and then you can list the impact that you created. So obviously CR ki job बहुत important होती है. They are constantly answering, like they are sort of middle managers. They are reporting to the teachers. They are handling the students, right? So do think about any experience that you've had as a student, and don't think ye resume mein kyun dalu. You should highlight any experience. So if you did a part-time job, you can highlight that as well. So maybe you did a part-time job as an Uber driver. Highlight that. Why did you do it? What did you learn through your Uber driving experience? If you were a tuition teacher, highlight that. Obviously, it depends on what sort of job you're applying for. So maybe as a tutor, आपने जो है client dealing की. So, and that is something that is always appreciable for most jobs, right? So, and maybe if you're applying for a teaching job, so definitely you need to highlight your tutorship experience. Internship experience. One thing that I really want to make clear for everybody who is listening here, I have no idea how many people are. So even if it's just you, Shiza, know the difference between an intern and internee, right? And this is something that is, everybody makes this mistake. Internee is someone who went to prison. Somebody who is in prison, somebody is in jail. Do not mention that on your resume. Nobody wants to know if you ever went to the jail. This is something that you don't want to highlight, right? Intern is what you want to highlight, that you were a trainee. So make sure that you're not using the word internee in your resume. It's a very common mistake. So intern, think that. So internship experiences, how you can highlight. So people do industry visits, right? Most of them have had that. Most people have internships. Highlight those experiences, and within those experiences, what you did there. So as when you visit industry, so what do? You observe. You observe the various process, or you learned about how the process is run, things like that. So you can highlight your industry visits, you can highlight your internships, what you did over there. And there is so much that you can highlight as a student. Quantify action maybe had na bhi kar pa raha, but you can always show the impact that you created.
Okay, all right. I think that was quite an impactful session for me as well as our audience, because of course we got to know so much about writing a good resume, and I think that is particularly going to help all of us, because as you mentioned, how important a resume is. So, well, that would be like we'll be towards the end of the session. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being here and for sharing such important things. And I think it was really helpful for all of our audience, and we were really able to grasp so many new things from this session.
My pleasure being here, Shiza. I just want everybody to know that this is the kind of things that we do here at Amal, right? This is only a minor, small glimpse of what we teach at Amal and what we learn from you at Amal. So I really want you all to just log on to our website for further details. Our winter applications are online. Go ahead, apply for it. Speak to, and especially for the audience here who is from NED. We have a large number of students who are from NED, who are all Amal alumni. Speak to them. Don't listen to me, because I am obviously someone who works at Amal. Listen to our Amal alumni, and they'll tell you that this is something that is obviously worth your time. Go through our website. The applications are online. It's a simple process. Just fill out the application and you will be called for an interview.
All right. Thank you so much, ma'am. This was really a helpful and fruitful session for all of us. And with that, to our audience, I hope that you've learned today a lot of how to create a very good resume to be accepted in one of the best firms for the best positions. And that was all for today. And I hope you were able to grasp a lot of new and important things. And with that, we'll be coming up to the end of the session. I hope that this was really helpful to all of us. And we'll be hoping to have further few more sessions like this to be with you guys. So thank you so much. And till then, Allah Hafiz.
Thank you.